Hello everyone. Today, we bring you a deeply touching story, a journey where love, sacrifice, and the quiet belief in everyday miracles unfold through the lives of James and Tu Diep. In the previous episode, after a long period of hospital treatment, Tu Diep was finally allowed to return home. But it wasn't because she had been cured, far from it. Her illness, cruel and terminal, had proven too difficult to treat. The doctors could do little more than hope that the comfort of her familiar home and the gentle warmth of loving care would give her spirit the strength to keep fighting against fate. But that wasn't all. Also in the last episode, Tung, the man who had harbored a quiet, selfless love for Tu Diep for years, finally stepped into the light. He sought out James, the man Diep truly loved. Tung's heart was aching, heavy with pain, but burning with a desperate desire to protect the woman he could never forget. Their meeting exploded into an emotional storm, a heart-wrenching confrontation filled with blame, anguish, and the painful truth. Both men loved her, yet only one could remain by her side in this life and death moment. So now, we ask, who is the one Tu Diep truly needs? Can love conquer illness? Will her heart still call out for James, the man who weathered every storm by her side? Or will it open to Tong, the quiet strength who had always been there, just behind her? Join us in this video as we walk further with Tu Diep on her extraordinary journey to reclaim life and love. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a single tear-jerking, breathtaking episode. After returning home, Tu Diep's health remained perilously fragile. Each step she took was slow and heavy, and the cruel grip of pain still greeted her every morning. But beside her, always, was James, the man who had pushed aside everything else in his world just to be with her. He didn't just care for her meals and sleep. He was there to remind her gently, lovingly, to take her medicine on time. On nights when her fever crept in silently, James stayed awake, whispering soft words of comfort, cooling her forehead with damp towels, checking her temperature over and over. His love wasn't loud. It wasn't wrapped in diamonds or grand speeches. It lived in the quiet, in the way he waited, watched, and cared. His devotion was total, patient, silent, and unwavering. For Tu Diep, James was willing to set aside his career, the very thing that once defined his life. He didn't hesitate to get his hands dirty feeding chickens, sweeping the yard, things so far removed from the luxury he was born into. Though clumsy and inexperienced, he learned, for her, so she wouldn't have to worry about a single thing. One morning, as Tu Diep quietly stepped onto the porch, she saw him, sleeves rolled up, hands covered in dirt, feeding the chickens one by one with such tender care. She stood there silently, tears slipping down her cheeks. The man before her was no longer the wealthy heir she had first met, but someone who had given up everything for her. James even cooked porridge himself, adjusting the seasoning just right so she could eat more easily. He brewed every packet of herbal medicine with gentle focus, watching each drop fall into the bowl like a prayer for a miracle. This was love, no vows, no luxury, just small, quiet acts that made Diep's heart tremble more deeply than ever. But even James couldn't always stay. One day, an urgent crisis at his company forced him to leave. Before going, he held Tu Diep's hand tightly, his voice soft but worried. "I'll be back as soon as I can. Please take care of yourself, eat well, rest. I can't stop worrying about leaving you alone." Tu Diep gave a faint smile and nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll be good. Don't worry. Your company needs you too." Once James left, the house fell eerily quiet. Diep didn't want to drown in loneliness. She reminded herself to stay strong, not just for James, but for herself. She slowly began to move, wiping the tables, watering the plants, tidying small corners of the home. Then she saw the garden, overgrown and neglected. With quiet determination, she pushed herself to care for it again. Her body was weak, but her heart was firm. She had to keep trying because James had given her so much already. Meanwhile, Tung, the man who had loved Tu Diep from afar for years, was in turmoil. The image of her frail and vulnerable in the hospital bed haunted him. That night, he didn't sleep. At dawn, Tung sat alone in the garden, his heart heavy with sorrow. His father, sensing his pain, sat beside him and placed a calming hand on his shoulder. His voice was deep, understanding. "Son, if you truly love her, don't sit here full of regrets. Be brave. Follow your heart. Live honestly, and you'll never look back with sorrow. Don't repeat the mistake that cost you." At the mention of Lan, the woman he had once loved, Tung's heart clenched. Years ago, poverty and insecurity had stolen his courage. He had let Lan go, watching her leave with tears he couldn't stop. But then he met Tu Diep. Her warm smile and quiet resilience brought him back to life. Yet she loved James, the man who was always by her side. So Tong buried his feelings, choosing to stay in the shadows, offering his support like an older brother. Now, with Tu Diep so ill, he couldn't stay quiet. His father's words ignited something in him. Tung was no longer that timid boy with nothing. He had strength. He had courage. This time, he whispered to himself, "I won't let the woman I love slip away again. Even if she doesn't choose me, I want her to know somewhere in this world, there's a man ready to give her everything." And with that, Tong rose, his eyes steady with resolve. That evening, Tung arrived at Tu Diep's home. He paused at the old wooden gate. In the soft sunlight, he saw her in the garden bent over rows of vegetables, her figure delicate, a bead of sweat on her brow. His heart ached. He walked over, voice gentle, "You're still recovering. Why are you out here? Where's James? Isn't he supposed to take care of you?" She looked up and smiled softly. "James is busy with work. I'm feeling better. Just wanted to move a little, to gain back some strength." But behind her smile, Tung could see the quiet exhaustion. He didn't say another word. He simply rolled up his sleeves and joined her. Side by side, they worked in the garden. Tung, born into a life of toil, taught her how to trim leaves and remove pests. When she clumsily got dirt on her cheek, he gently wiped it away. Their laughter echoed sweet, light, like a breeze that swept away old sorrow. Later, they sat beneath the blooming plum tree. Silence fell. Hearts beat loud with things left unsaid. Finally, Tung spoke. "I know being with James hasn't been easy. I'm not saying this to compare or to take you from him. I just want you to know, I've always been here, and if you let me, I want to care for you, truly care for you." Tu Diep froze. She had never imagined this gentle friend harbored such deep feelings. She couldn't speak. Her lips parted, then closed again. Tung smiled faintly, as if he'd expected no reply. "You don't have to say anything. Just knowing you know that's enough for me." And with that, he stood, brushed off the dust, and walked away into the fading twilight. His figure faded slowly, leaving Tu Diep sitting there, hands still warm from his quiet confession, her heart more confused than ever. As Tung neared the gate, he ran into James. James had just returned. Their eyes locked, the air heavy with tension. Tung stood firm, voice steady. "I once stepped back, thinking you could make her happy, but I was wrong. From now on, I'll do everything I can to win her heart, not to take her away from you, but to show her there's another love waiting for her." Before James could reply, Tung turned and walked away, each step filled with purpose and heartbreak. James stood still, the air around him suddenly heavy with the weight of Tong's declaration. For a long moment, he didn't move, the sharp sting of rivalry, the kind born not from malice, but from shared love for the same woman, sank deep into his chest. He clenched his fists briefly before loosening them. He wasn't a man who fought with words or pride. He fought with actions, with the quiet resilience that had seen him through storms greater than this. He stepped into the garden, and the sight of Tu Diep sitting alone under the plum tree, her eyes clouded with emotion, made his heart ache more than any confrontation ever could. He walked over, crouched beside her, and gently took her hand. "I'm back," he said softly. "I missed you." Tu Diep turned to him, her expression unreadable for a second, then softened. "I missed you too." But even as she smiled, James could sense it, the flicker of confusion behind her eyes, the way her hand trembled slightly in his. He knew Tung had spoken to her. They sat there in silence for a moment, the petals of the plum tree fluttering around them like whispers of an impending choice. Neither of them wanted to face. James spoke again, his voice low but steady. "Tong came to see you, didn't he?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, he told me everything." James let out a slow breath, as if bracing for the inevitable. "I won't ask you to choose, not now. Not when you're still healing. But I want you to know, everything I've done, I did because I love you. I always have. And I will keep doing it whether I'm the one you choose or not." Diep's eyes welled with tears. "Why does love have to hurt so much?" she whispered. "Because it's real," James answered, reaching up to brush a strand of hair from her face. "And anything real is never easy." That night, as Diep lay in bed, staring up at the ceiling, her heart was a battlefield of memories, affections, and unspoken fears. Both men had given her parts of themselves: James, the man who had stood by her through pain and despair, and Tong, the man who had quietly held her in his heart for years without asking for anything in return. But deep down, something stirred within her, a realization, not of who she should love, but of who she had become: stronger, braver, and no longer just a girl who needed saving. Meanwhile, across town, Tong stood by the riverside where he and Lan used to meet. He stared into the water, remembering his father's words, remembering Lan's final goodbye. "I won't run away this time," he murmured to the wind. "Even if she chooses him, I'll still be there, this time, not as a shadow, but as a man willing to give her the world." The next morning, a storm rolled over the village, mirroring the unrest brewing in the hearts of everyone involved. What none of them knew was that another storm, one far more dangerous, was approaching. John, the man behind James's company's downfall, had returned from the shadows, his next plan darker and more ruthless than before. And this time, Diep would be the one in his sights. Life lesson: the strength of love lies in letting go and standing tall. In this chapter of Diep's story, we witness a powerful truth about love, sacrifice, and personal growth. James, despite his deep love for Diep, does not force a choice upon her. Tong, too, loves her silently and selflessly. Both men express love not by possession, but by presence, by being willing to stand beside her, even if it means losing her. And in the center of it all is Diep, not broken, not fragile, but evolving. She begins to see that true love is not about who saves her, but about becoming strong enough to stand on her own. The lesson is clear. True love doesn't demand, it respects. It supports growth, even if it means letting go. And real strength is found not just in who stands beside you, but in the courage to stand alone when you must. In life, we may face choices that pull us in different directions, but when we learn to value our self-worth above our fear of loss, we rise not as someone's possession, but as someone whole.